What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average Joe Rating Climb. This is a series where I explain my thought process behind the moves I'm making, and we take an account from a low rating, and we go as high as we can. And I'm going to get 2 pawns in the center here, and we have a French defense. The only opening that I've really been playing against this recently and having a lot of fun with is the Alpine Gambit. So we play bishop to e3, and we basically dare black to take our pawn because we're going to play f3 and try to take it back. And of course, if they keep taking us, we will just recapture, and then we have a nice lead in development, and we have this open F file that we can use to attack. Okay, on knight to F6 to defend it, I'm going to actually set a trap here. So we're going to take the pawn, we're going to attack the knight, and the reason this is a trap is exactly this. And it actually works very good around this rating range because players are paying attention to this, and it looks like we're in trouble. Because normally, in this situation, if you play G3 here, the knight just grabs it. You can't take back because there's a pin. And this is a good situation for black. But this is actually a trap. And the reason, because after the knight takes, which I think black will do, we have bishop to f2. And we actually pin the knight. And black's going to be losing their knight. Okay. And actually, they kind of have to at this point, because if you try to move your queen away, we would take the knight anyway. Yeah, so they have to go for it. And here's the very sneaky move, bishop to f2. Because normally this bishop's not on e3, right? The bishop's probably back on c1 or something. And you wouldn't have that move available. But we do. So we play bishop f2. They can't take our rook. Okay, yeah, this is a good try. Defending. But what we're going to do is simply keep attacking. All right, so how can we attack this again? Well, queen f3. Right? Because if we take now, the bishop will come down. We have the same problem that when we recapture, there's that queen, which is going to take our rook, right? But we just add an attacker, queen to f3, and we're ready to take the knight again. And black still has the same problem. They can't take because they lose their queen. All right, so very sneaky trap. Lots of players fall for this one. And so make a note of this, all right? There's a few more things that black can try, like, for example, queen h6 and maybe sneaking down here. But we have a lot of different ways that we can handle that, which are good for us. And so let's just see what they're going to do. And the nice thing about this trap is even if they don't fall for it, you're not playing bad moves, right? Like, even if, let's just say here, they just retreat their knight and they don't go for it. Well, it's fine. You keep playing, you develop your knight, you castle. Yes, we're down a pawn, but we sacrificed that intentionally. We've got the open files, and you know, it's pretty good. I have a lot of fun and win a lot of games that way. And so there's nothing wrong with it, but you also do get the bonus that a lot of people will fall for this, right? And now we're just in a winning position right out of the opening, essentially. Knight c6. Okay, so they decide to kind of just abandon it at this point and counterattack here. So let's think through this a little bit. What are our options? Well, we can take with the pawn or we can take with the bishop. If we take with the bishop, it does allow black to trade these bishops off. Does that help us or help our opponent? It's hard to say. I kind of like the bishop there because it is supporting the center. So I'm inclined to leave it. But that being said, this bishop's actually pretty well placed for black. So maybe taking that is good. It does open up the D file. This bishop, you know, the F file will be open. Like, I don't know. It's probably doesn't really matter too much. So I think I'm just going to take with the pawn here. Leave the extra pieces on the board. But really, I think both moves are probably fine. I guess now that I say that, it does give black potentially queen takes d4 options. Maybe even knight takes d4 gets a little bit tricky. Yeah, so to avoid that, let's actually just take with the pawn. And notice, our queen is the defending the rook, which is important because earlier this wouldn't have been a good idea, right? But now it's fine. So we take, we attack the queen, and you'll notice we've got 4 pieces. Black only has 3 because they lost the knight there. Okay, so queen g5, what's the threat? Well, this obviously is attacked twice, but it's defended twice, so we're okay. And then also, along this diagonal, we see the queen coming into c1. That would be a very annoying move, forcing my king to move. The queen could keep invading, so we definitely don't want to allow that. So what are my options? Well, knight to d2 would block that and set up castling queenside, which is probably where my king's going to be safest. Knight to e2 controls the square, also adds a defender to here and here, sets up castling kingside, which I don't think I'm going to castle kingside. It looks a little bit too open. But both of the knight moves would probably be fine. Now, let me just think about one thing. If black tries to bring their knight in to attack me here, do I need to be concerned? No, I don't think so, because everything's defended. If they took, I just would recapture. Not a big deal. But I think I'm totally fine, and I don't think either knight really changes that too much. This one does have a nice threat of knight to e4, which I like. This one just looks very good and solid defending everything. So yeah, both knight moves look really good. And probably doesn't matter. I'm going to go with this one. I just like this threat of knight e4. I like that a lot, but I think both of these totally fine. And they do play knight b4, but like I already analyzed, everything's defended. This is not really a problem for me. I'm just going to take it. And so I don't think we have to worry. We could continue developing. We could go for knight e4. If they take, I take. Queen has to move somewhere, then we could probably grab the bishop. I like that. I also just like developing, though. Just saving that move for maybe later. Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep developing. You can't really go wrong, so when in doubt, if you're not sure, just go with the developing move. It's going to be right 9 times out of 10. And you know, just getting the pieces out is always good. Of course, like I said, if they take, we recapture. They're playing e5. Okay, interesting move. It unleashes the bishop, so let's make a note of that. We have to be careful of bishop g4 if that would cause us problems. Of course, let's start with the obvious, maybe taking. They could recapture. Seems fine. We might be able to... Okay, castling. There is going to be this knight move here, which is a little bit annoying. So let me think about moving my knight in now, because I wonder, where is the queen going to go? And getting rid of the bishop is usually a pretty good thing. Yeah, I think I do like this move, actually, guys. The queen doesn't have a lot of places, really. So let's go ahead, go on the offensive here. We'll play knight to e4. And notice, by kicking the queen away, I'm not really giving black time to start building the pressure and attack me with pieces, right? So I think this is a nice move, and yeah, just takes away some options from black. Like, for example, if the queen has to go back here, you can no longer play bishop g4, things like that, right? And if you go here, then you're stepping in line with the bishop. That looks really dangerous. And I don't know if we necessarily win material, because I think the queen could take, but you have to be extremely careful doing stuff like that. We're doing okay on time. We still have over 5 minutes, and we're already in a really nice position in the middle game, so nothing to worry about there just yet. He plays bishop g4 anyway. Now, that is a big mistake. Can anybody tell me why? Well, hopefully you said we can just take his queen. Because look what's going to happen after we take the queen. Of course, he's going to take our queen. But then our knight gets to take the bishop for free. Which means we get a queen and a bishop, and we only lose a queen. That's a free piece, right? So that's a huge mistake from our opponent. They were already down a piece. Now they're going to be down 2 pieces. And the fact that, you know, this is here or this pawn, that doesn't really mean anything. So now we have 4 against 2 pieces, and black is in big trouble, okay? So, probably going to recapture this. I don't have to. I could castle or kick this knight away, but I may as well take it. I think I'll take this way. Keep this knight here just in case black castles and a rook ends up, you know, landing here. I want my king to be defended. Let's recapture the piece. Okay. So, at this point, I'm thinking about where my king is going to be safest. Probably doesn't matter too much. I could even play something like king d2. The only thing about king d2 is maybe the rooks could be a little bit annoying, put some pressure on me. So I think I'm just going to castle and just get out of the center. Get my rooks connected so they can come to the center, counteract what black's going to be doing. Yeah, exactly. And so let's go ahead and just slide over here. Rook on the open file. This one's already kind of positioned nicely, so I decided to use this guy instead, right? Now, if I wanted to put my rooks here and here, for example, then maybe I would have used the other rook and left this one for this one. But I'm happy with the rooks being right here for right now. And what's the easiest way to finish off the game? Well, if I can force trades of pieces, that's going to do it. Because if you imagine, I've said this many times before on the channel, if all these pieces were magically traded and all we had left were some pawns and my 2 knights, my two knights would be able to just jump around, take everything real easily, and I would win, right? It gets a little bit complicated when there's rooks and bishops and things you have to worry about. So the more pieces you trade, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so do I want to move my rook that I just put there? Not really, because then this is the only thing defending, and if they attack me, then maybe I have to move that and I lose a piece, right? So what am I going to do instead? Knight to c3. And I did actually plan for this when I played rook e1. So if you want to take these things to the next level, you want to plan ahead for things like this, right? And make sure you have a good move in mind. Okay, so we could, like I said, go for a trade right away, but then I give up the file. So I think what I'll do is just find a different square for my knight. How about f5? This looks like a very nice square. Why? Because 97, 96, we're threatening here. It just seems like a pretty good aggressive square. Okay. Yeah, so in the spirit of trading, oh, actually, you know what? Never mind. I was going to take and say, I could just trade and go here, but I actually see a more powerful move. If you look at the bishop, it's defending the pawn, which I would like to take and trap the rook here, right? So what am I going to do? A3. I'm going to force the bishop to go back. There you go. And now I can take this and I trap the rook. Okay. Attacking a pawn, not a big deal. Rook's obviously a much, bigger piece, so we're just going to go ahead and take that. Okay. So this is defended. No need to worry. If we get checked, we can just move. Our pawn is under attack, so I probably want to defend that. And you know what? D4 would defend it with the knight, but then my knight's going to get chased away. So I'm going to go rook f3. I think that makes sense. It's on a white square, so the bishop can't attack me. It defends the pawn, and we're good to go. All right, where are we going to move the knight to? Let's think about this. Maybe h6 to threaten the pawn here. I think I like that. Yeah, let's go ahead. Put the pressure on f7. Okay, he does defend. And I think maybe we just go rook f1. Yeah, rook f1. Just really pile on. We have 3 pieces now, only 2 defenders. Okay, and how do we increase the pressure again? Well, this pawn is pinned, which means it cannot capture. So we can just play g4, and we have all these pieces lined up on this guy. Okay, now, the knight. If I take, my knight is going to get captured. Am I willing to sacrifice my knight? Probably not. I mean, I could take and get 2 pawns for it and probably still win the game relatively easily because I'm up so much material, but there's no reason to do that. I think we should probably save the knight. Actually, now that I look at it, I was going to play g5, save the knight, but there is going to be the bishop coming back. And so what I'm going to do in an effort to simplify this game is just sacrifice it here. And sometimes, especially as you get lower on time, you want to look for these opportunities to simplify the game. Okay, let's bring my knight in with a check. Notice we've got the rooks behind the passed pawn, which we're going to push. This is very dangerous for our opponent. And I am picking up the pace because it is possible to lose on time if you spend too long. Obviously, I'm explaining stuff, but a minute and a half definitely is when you want to start to pick up the pace. So let's push it again. And the easiest thing to do in a situation like this is just figure out a way to attack that rook. So what I'm going to do is use my knight. I'm going to come over here to h7, and then the rook is going to be in trouble because you don't want to sack it, but you have to. Otherwise, I'm going to take it, and there you go. Okay, and again, same thing. How do we get this pawn to become a queen? Well, we have to attack the square. So what's the easiest way to do that? Let's put a rook on this. So should I go here or here? Obviously, don't want to lose my rook, so I'm going to choose this one. And here we go. It's, in like 2 moves, we're going to be getting a queen. So we come down, we get the queen, we take, and now it's just a question of can we checkmate with the 2 rooks, which is very easy to do. Let's go check. And then we bring the rook back and we come over for checkmate. Okay, there you go. So good game to our opponent. Really, they didn't have much of a chance because of the trap right at the beginning. Okay, let's check the game review. Update the result here. And yeah, 95. So pretty much everything was book. It didn't like our opening choice, the sacrifice, but that's because Stockfish doesn't usually like when you play gambits. But other than that, we basically played a perfect game. And yeah, very nice trap in the opening. So remember that one if you don't have something to play against the French. Okay, let's go ahead. Jump into the next game. We're black. Okay, against e4, I'll play Guess we'll play a Scandinavian this time. I play E5 and D5, but D5 I've been playing a lot more recently, so. And he turns it into a gambit. Okay, well, I am going to take it. That's generally the best way to approach this. And this is actually what I usually play as white. And so it's interesting when you face it as black. One of the annoying things I think when I'm playing this is when black plays the move E5. So I'll go ahead and play that now. The reason it's annoying is because you don't really want to take and lose the castling rights. But if you don't, how do you defend this? Because your normal response of like knight f3, for example, is not available. So that's why e5 is kind of one of those annoying moves. And that's what I'm going with now. I don't actually know what the best response is. Maybe d5 or just developing some pieces. I'm not actually sure. And notice when you play e5, you also open up this diagonal, which, you know, if white were to make a mistake in capture, you might be able to take advantage of that. You also let your bishop out. So he chooses c3. Okay. So we could just keep attacking, which is what I think I'm going to do, actually, with knight c6. Just keep putting the pressure on that. He pushes by, okay, which does come with an attack on my knight. And I wonder if we can play this very sneaky move of bishop to bishop c5 with the idea of coming here. He might have king e2 though, which maybe would save white's position. The idea is, you know, if they take, you play bishop f2. If they take you, then you win their queen. But if he doesn't take me and he just moves his king up to e2, I need to have some sort of a follow-up. Taking doesn't do anything. The knight just comes out. I mean, yes, I could trade, but I don't think that's good enough to sacrifice a piece, unfortunately. Let me just verify. Maybe there's another way to make it happen. Queen h4. No, it doesn't do anything. You know, we could, let's see, if we trade and play like bishop f5, it's quite dangerous for the white king. I will say that, because we're going to castle. I mean, it's very dangerous. I just don't know if it's worth giving up a piece. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. And actually, I probably should have thought about this before I played knight c6. I don't know why I didn't really put more thought into it. Yeah. I'm tempted to play knight b8, which looks like a really weird move. But my idea is that if you try to take my pawn here, I have queen h4. If I go e7, I block that. Yeah, I think I am. I think I'm going to play knight b8. So, bit of a weird situation there. Okay, he falls right for the trap. He falls right for the trap. And when you play this, you know, f3 move, you have to make sure you account for these type of tactics. And our opponent did not do that. And queen h4 is going to be a killer now. And the reason is because you can't go g3 because you get forked, okay? And if you can't go g3, how do you get out of the check? You have to go here or here, and that's an awful thing to have to do on move 7, right? So white needed to find some other move. I don't know what they had to do, but they couldn't take the pawn. But again, going back to this e5 move that I played, you could see how annoying this is for white, right? Okay, we do have a check. But I think I'm just going to take the pawn straight away. I don't even think I need that check right now. I think I'd rather just take this pawn. Could also play knight f6 with the idea of taking it with the knight. That's pretty good too, actually. Yeah, let's do that. Sometimes when you have a good position, just making it even better is the way to go. Although there is queen a4, bishop d7, bishop b5. Oh, that should be good for us. That should be good for us. Yeah, I'll play knight f6. I think this is a good move here. We still have the option. We could take either way. And his king's in trouble. So the faster I can get my pieces out and castle and start attacking the king, better off I'm going to be. Okay? And like the reason that I didn't take it immediately, guys, is because imagine if I'm able to, let's just say hypothetically, take it with my knight. Now it's check, and there's a follow-up fork. It's much more dangerous, much more powerful. Yes, he can go bishop d3, but now I'm able to get a bishop. And that's good. Yeah, it's generally a good thing. Trading a knight for a bishop is usually a good thing. So by throwing in these moves, I still get my pawn at the end of the day. But it's going to be better for me. Now, actually, I have to be careful here. Oh, no. Never mind. I was going to say I have to be careful because there's a fork. Okay, you see that? And I'll lose my knight. But it's not because it's with check. So I'm fine. But you have to make sure you're paying attention to those things because this could very easily... You could blunder a piece just like in the blink of an eye if you're not paying attention. But it's check, so I'm good. And if, of course, if he takes and I recapture, you can't go there anymore. I just simply take the queen. So we're good. But I wanted to make sure about that. So if the king just moves, I think we can go in for the fork. Now, queen e1 is going to be an interesting move because it pins me. And we'll have to see. Okay, so we might have to think about this. I would love to go there, right? But queen e1 actually saves the queen, pins my knight, and I'm unable to take that because I lose my queen. Now, I could do something like bishop e7 to defend the queen, but then on g3, we could go back, defending it again. Bishop g5 is a crazy move, and if I take, they take, and maybe somehow white is surviving. So I don't know if that's the best approach here. Let's see what else we can do. We can play knight c5. Now, why is knight c5 good? Because then we might be able to play e4, chase the bishop, maybe bishop f5, start lining up on the king. So that looks good. Maybe knight d6 looks good. Yeah, so, I wonder if I could play bishop f5 immediately. What's the idea? The idea on bishop f5 is that then we have knight f2. Hits the queen, but also hits here. Well, that's super dangerous. Yeah, that's super. I think bishop f5 is maybe a really good move. Okay, let's do that. Let's go bishop f5. It's a complicated position, but... And again, I'm falling back on the principle of, like, as long as the move I'm choosing is a developing move, I can't be wrong, or I can't be that wrong. I mean, I might be a little wrong, but I can't be too wrong if I'm developing a piece, right? There are some kind of moves that, you know, if you play them, you have to make sure that they work tactically. Like some random, like, knight on the side or a pawn push or something. You have to make sure it works. Then there are moves like this where I think I'm setting a nice trap here. But even if I'm wrong about that for some reason, it's still a good move. It's just a developing move. It gets a piece out. I'm one step closer to castling, right? So that's kind of the mindset you want to have. So yeah, I don't think I have time to play knight f2, obviously, because of my queen. But I could take it. We have a total mess happening here. What's the idea here? Well, if you take my bishop, I can recapture. Fine, I got a free pawn. If you take me here, I can trade and then take your rook. Now there is going to be queen b5. We have to be a little careful. Knight d7 takes. We have rook b8. I think we're okay. Everything's defended. So yeah, this looks good. Now queen e1, we would have a trade. And then we could probably push the pawn, start attacking. I am pinned, so... Yeah, queen e1 is the only move that concerns me. Queen e1, let's just say we take... Check. The king takes. E4. The king moves. I still have a problem, actually. Yeah, maybe I should avoid that. This queen e1 is actually a very powerful move. So I think what I'm going to do is just retreat. I'm just going to go back here. I still have my original threat. Now, white's probably going to be able to defend that. So somehow white is defending, it looks like. And sometimes that happens, and you just have to, you know, be okay with that. Let's see. Do we have any tactics, first of all? Knight g5. Queen could take, and I lose a piece. My knight is under attack. So I think the only move that I have is knight to d6 to defend my bishop. I don't see any other moves, honestly. So let's go ahead and play that. I'm getting a little bit lower on time. I'm not going to panic just yet. But when I hit 2 minutes, if we're still in this middle game phase, I really got to pick up the pace, right? Because we have a lot of game left to play. So I'm not going to pick up the pace too much just yet. But it's like I said, as soon as I hit 2 minutes, that's kind of my signal of like, okay, you gotta go faster now, Nelson. Because what are we at? Let's see. 3-6-7, 3-6. So we're up 1 pawn. So I could go to an endgame and be happy with my 1 pawn. With his king here, it's actually not as exposed as I initially thought it was going to be. So I am tempted because of the time situation to go ahead with the queen trade. I think I will. And maybe that's not the right decision, but practically from a time management standpoint, it's much easier to play quickly and finish out a game when the queens are off the board than otherwise. So I'm happy with my 1 pawn advantage. Even though it's just 1 pawn, it's still a pawn, and that's a big deal. Let's defend my pawn here. I might end up playing f6 if the rook comes over just to really support it, but I think I will take this, mess up his pawn structure a little bit, because I wanted to develop that anyway. Now I can do it and force him to recapture me. It just gives me some extra time. Yeah, I think I will go ahead and play f6. Notice the pawns are really controlling the dark squares, shutting down the bishop a little bit, so I like that. And now I'm ready to probably castle. I didn't want the knight to come in and cause me problems, so we just stop that. And okay, we have to save this guy. Let's just go back to a good square. So yeah, 2 minutes, but at least now I'm kind of heading into the end game, which is great. Let's go ahead and castle quickly and try to save some of our time for those maybe critical moments that are going to happen towards the end of the game. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to try to attack this pawn. Notice my knights are stopping him from pushing, and this is a weakness. So this knight can actually jump in here, and we're going to have all kinds of targets. Okay, so he tries to eliminate that knight. Not a problem. We just recapture. Towards the center is the general rule, and I will follow that here. Let me jump in, and I'm attacking. I'm attacking. And so let's see how White's going to defend this. Okay, so he almost walks into a fork, but the knight's defending. So what I'd like to do is somehow save my knight and also take this pawn. So I think what I'm going to do is go check, and then it gives me time to take the pawn. B5 might have also been a good move there. I'm not totally sure about that one. He could have kept coming up and attacking me, but now this gives me time to grab the pawn. The other thing is it gives me an open file that I can double up my rooks on. So that is great news. Can we sack and jump in? Yeah, we're going to get a pawn, but it's probably not worth sacking. So let's just double up the rooks. 1.5 minutes, so I am keeping an eye on that time. I think we're doing okay. We're making some progress. Getting rid of that pawn was a good first step. But now I really want to start looking for ways to force some trades, right? Because at 1.5 minutes, we need to finish out this game. So I'm going to be really looking carefully for those opportunities. I mean, 3, 6, 7 against 3, 4, 5. So we have 2 pawns. That's plenty of pawns to win the endgame. So trading is going to be great. Yeah, I'm tempted to even sack and then just get some more pawns, actually. I don't normally do that, but we're kind of to that point. No, let me not sack just yet. Let's try to maybe plant my knight in here or something. This is almost worth it, because if you have enough pawns and a knight, you're going to be able to beat the rook. And I'm pretty much there. Like 3 pawns and a knight. If I get this pawn, it's probably too much for the rook to handle. So yeah, I don't know if that's the easiest way to win this or not. You could argue that maybe it is, but I'm going to try to just put my pawns like this first. Maybe get my king in a little better position. And then maybe I'll do it. But actually, knight c4 might just force a trade, because I'd be threatening the fork and threatening the knight. So that's probably the simplest way to go. Yeah, so he's really trying to stop me from going there. Let me play c6. Like I said, get my king in a better position. And I do think I will be sacking, though. It looks like that's going to be the way to bust through quickest and easiest. Ah, he plays this move, though. Okay, that's not a problem. Let's bring the king up. We can just recapture. That's not a problem. That's a nice pre-move. Even though the pawns get doubled, this is very, 4 against 2. I could definitely win with this. So this section is not really a concern for me. Okay, I'm going to put my king like this so the knight can't check me anytime soon. That's a nice one to remember when you're in time trouble. You don't have to think about, like, is the knight going to fork me? No, I'm not getting forked for at least 3 moves as soon as I go here. Okay, so now I can start thinking about other things like knight c4. Maybe, yeah, knight c4, rook a8 to attack this way. Could be an idea. It's actually not that simple on how to win this, guys. Let's go ahead and bring the knight in. If he goes here, I think I'll play rook d7. Same pattern. Look at that. Same pattern. I know my rook is not going to be attacked by his knight for at least 3 moves. So again, making use of this pattern, this is a really good one to remember in time pressure. I think we're going to go here, try to trade. He's probably not going to let me, which is fine. At some point, I'm going to have to find a way through, though. So we're going to need to push these pawns. Let me go ahead and play g6 and get ready to play f5. Maybe we bring the rook over. Yeah, so we've got to, this is where we have the extra pawns. We have to use these guys, and so I'm trying to set that up. Because if I just sit around making random moves back and forth, I'm going to lose on time, right? So I have to push these, okay? That's the idea. Let's go ahead. Get them rolling. 2 connected pawns with the rook behind them. Extremely dangerous. Very hard to stop. My knight is supporting as well. But I think we just push, push, push here, basically. We can even use the king to help, actually, if we need to. We're still okay on time. Okay, I know how to pre-move checkmates, so even just having like 5 seconds left at the end, if we're able to promote these to queens, will be enough time. But we have to make sure we don't blunder something, like lose a knight or lose a rook or lose our pawns. Then we'll probably lose on time, right? That being said, our opponent's spending a lot of time themselves, so maybe not. They might actually lose on time. Yeah, 94, maybe even just attacking this way could be another idea, but I really want to focus on keeping the pawns going, so I think we just bring the king to help too. Okay, maybe he wants to go here. Let's push it. Let's put the king behind. Got to keep him protected and keep him moving together side by side. That's the best way. Let's defend. It was attacked. We're defending. White's putting up a very nice fight. Like most players, 1800, I feel like would be losing on time this game. So they're doing a very, very nice job. Let me jump my knight in. Attacks here. Maybe we can get a fork. Okay, they let me take that one. And let me not lose sight of what I'm trying to do here. So let's keep pushing. I think we're going to go here next. We actually have a fork, a tactical fork that defends the pawn, which is kind of nice. So if he takes it, yeah, there you go. So that's an advanced one. All right, that's a very advanced one, but those little things help you in these situations. Let me go check. Let me attack the knight here, keeping the pawn going. I don't want to lose on time, so I gotta keep this pawn rolling here. I gotta get rid of the knight. Then it becomes easy, right? Once we get rid of the knight, it becomes easy. Okay, we got the queen. I'm going to start looking for checkmates here. But like I said, I want to get rid of this knight. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we're going to make sure we don't stalemate. I'm going to go with check. I'm going to move this knight out of the way. Sometimes it can, you can actually stalemate because you have too many pieces. So sometimes I just like to move them out of the way. And now I think we can look for checkmates. Probably going to be one right here. Okay. Yeah, our opponent put up a nice fight, right? And very nice fight that game. So let's check the game review. Well played to our opponent. Okay, so yeah, 79, 87.6. We did have a moment where we threw the game away. Let's see what happened here. So at this point, we are way ahead. Let's see. We missed an opportunity to take and go bishop b4 check and then play knight f6. So, basically what that tells me is Stockfish really didn't like this move because of d5. Now that being said, knight b8 was the best move, and it had to do with that, like I said during the game, that leaving this queen and bishop open was very valuable. Our opponent blunders here to queen h4. Now they have to run and they're in trouble. Stockfish likes knight f6. So where was our big mistake? Bishop f5 was a terrible move. Let's see if we can figure out why. So first of all, it's because knight f2 was winning, and I didn't see why. I thought queen e1 was going to happen. I must have missed something. Queen a4 check. I did see that. Oh. So, okay, here's one option. There's two options here. One of them is you go check and then you take, allowing him to take your queen, because at the end of it, you're going to get his queen and an extra pawn, and you're just winning. So you got a free piece because you got the bishop. Okay, so I missed that little detail of allowing my queen to get captured. I stopped looking. After I saw this move, I said, no, b3, it's no good. I stopped looking. I should have looked further. Okay. Oh, and if wait a second, if you take and the king takes, what is my plan here? Now you can go bishop f5, launch the attack, queen, actually g4, and you keep attacking. Okay, so I missed some of those details, but there's even a better move here. Just going queen f6, which actually, did I talk about this? Maybe I did talk about this move. No, I looked at bishop e7. Going here immediately, and if bishop g5, again, this knight takes d3 detail where you get the queen. So this was a pretty advanced tactical position. Yeah, so I missed some details there, definitely. And this was a good example. Actually, I said it in the game. I said, you can't go wrong when you develop. Well, you can. And this was a good example. There were some tactics that I missed. So bishop f5 actually wasn't a bad move. I just missed the obvious tactic, and that's why my advantage disappeared. That being said, white needed to play one exact move, which they didn't. They needed to play queen e2, which attacks my knight. I don't know why that's so powerful for white. Knight a6. Knight d2 again attacks my knight. And if I try to defend, they bring it out attacking my queen. I guess the idea is, what happens if I just go back? I'm losing a piece. They have so many pieces attacking. Oh, I see. Wow. Okay. So yeah, it was a little bit complicated here, actually, guys. All right. So that was pretty much the only moment where I messed up. White didn't see it, and then I was back in the driver's seat again. And, you know, we did this. What was the best move here? Yeah, so Stockfish basically says, look, the king is still exposed. You don't want to be trading queens. But I did it from the practical standpoint, right, of like, I'm low on time. I just want to get to the end game. So good example of how sometimes like even playing not the best move, but playing the best practical move can help you win the game. And that's really what you want to think about from a practical standpoint a lot of times. Okay, let's go to the next game. Very nice defending by our opponent, though. Okay, let's play... I'll play e4 again. Okay, I'll play something I don't play all the time, but it's a very tricky opening. We'll go with the bishop's opening. And on knight f6, I'm going to play a gambit. I haven't played this in a while, but this is a lot of fun. It's called the PONZIANI gambit. Okay, they do play the best move. They take here. If they take here, there's a bunch of traps, so they play the best move. And what we're going to do now is play knight f3. And we're going to let them take this if they want to. I don't know if they will. Queen e7. Was not expecting that as a move. Was not expecting that one. So right away, my instinct is to just castle, because whenever they try to take, if I'm castled, I always have rook e1, which looks to be a very powerful move. And I don't want the queen coming in and checking me. and having to block with my queen and get queens traded or play something awkward like this. We can't block here because the pawn. Yeah, definitely think we have to castle. And the problem for black with this move is how are you going to castle, right? Your bishop is now stuck. Now, yes, you can push your d pawn, move your bishop and castle that way, but that takes a lot of time. And I don't know if they're going to have that much time. So that's the drawback, I would say, to this move for black. Now, I have a lot of ways to approach the position. Option 1, we take on d4. It's kind of an annoying pawn, so getting rid of it might make some sense. Option 2, pin this guy. That seems like an annoying pin because I might play e5 next. Option 3, I could play e5 right away just to attack the knight. And the idea with e5 is that if you ever push your d pawn, I'm going to take it, right? And open up your king. Take 6 takes. He could go there. If I did play e5 and the knight moves to, let's just say, g4. How do I feel about that? Bishop g5. Queen moves somewhere over here. I think I just want to get rid of this pawn because I really would like to bring this knight out. Pawn is just very annoying, so let's go ahead and take the pawn. I'm not actually sure. This queen e7 move kind of threw me off because I don't think it's a good move, but it's not one of the moves that I've necessarily studied, so I'm not exactly sure. But I think we can't go wrong with getting rid of that pawn. Because, yeah, I mean, knight c3 is a very nice move to play because then all of a sudden you have knight d5 moves, knight b5 ideas. So that pawn was stopping that. So I think this is a good decision. Okay, let's recapture. He's probably going to... Oh, plays b6. Wow. So he wants to go here. Something just feels wrong about that from black's perspective. I think knight c3 is good. On bishop b7... Actually, I could play bishop g5 right away. Oh, let's get the knight first. Let's get the knight out first. And what I want to do is play bishop g5. I'm threatening e5. I'm also threatening maybe to jump in here because black wants to castle. We don't want to let them have it so easy. I think bishop g5, if they castle and I play e5, yeah, I think black would be in trouble. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and create the threat here. Okay, now it's interesting, guys. Now it's really interesting because I don't have to retreat. I can play, let's just say, for example, knight d5. They do have this capture, but then I could take with, the bishop would hit the rook, or I could take with the pawn. The idea is that if they take me, I play rook e1, pin the queen. So I think knight d5 is the move to play here, guys. Takes, takes. The immediate threat of this. If they try to avoid that by castling, no, it looks very dangerous for them. So I think knight d5 is the move. Let's just verify. So takes, 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 rook e1. Yeah, they have no way to save their queen. They could castle, but I'm getting a queen for a rook and a bishop, which is a good trade. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah, I think this is, I mean, these moves, maybe, like we could throw in the trade, take with the queen, or we could take with the bishop, but I think opening up this is just so dangerous for black. Yeah, and they just don't even pay attention. This is, you gotta be aware of what's happening on the e-file if you're not going to castle. You have to, right? So they just can't really do this. Okay, so here we go. I mean, they do get a rook and a bishop, so it's not like the worst trade in the world, but it should be good for me. They take with the queen. That was a mistake too. They could have just castled and forced me to take, and then they would have had a lead in development. Now their king is stuck in the center. That was a terrible mistake. That was terrible. Now the game is over. Game is over. So how do we finish off the game in the most efficient way? Well, whenever you have a pinned piece like this, you want to attack it. So I'm going to go d6. Now you say they're going to take me, but then my queen comes in, attacking it again, and it's all over. It is all over for black. If they would have just castled and let me take in their queen, we would have still had a very close game. Yes, my queen would have been better, but it was not going to be that easy. But this is very straightforward for me. We take here. I think they have to play knight g8. Only way to save the piece. And after knight g8, we probably have some kind of tactic. Nope, they decide to just give up the piece. Actually, it's worse than that. There's a checkmate. So black kind of just fell apart here. And there's the checkmate. All right. Let's check the game review. Let's go update stats over here. Okay, yeah, 85, 55. All right, so it was a pretty nice game. Looks like I might have made a couple of mistakes there. Let's see. Yeah, so queen e7, not the best approach. I was supposed to castle, great. I was supposed to play e5 immediately. So e5 was the way to go. Let's just see what was the move against knight g4. Rook e1. Okay. Oh, because if they take it now, we just take, and play f4. And it's pinned. So that's one thing. And if they do anything else, like let's just say d6, well, we take and we pin him here. So they can't do that. So black is in a bind. It's hard to find a move for black. Stockfish says queen c5. And then I could play something like knight a3 to defend my bishop. Game goes on, but it's a good position for me. Okay, so yeah, e5 right away was the approach. So that's what I missed. Okay. And then here, again, it was e5 was the way to go. And the idea is that, let's see, knight can't move here, can't move here, can't move here. If you move to h5, I assume the knight is just really bad over there. I just keep developing. And I'm very happy. Knight to d5. I'm just jumping in. You don't want to do this because this is bad news. And the knight's very awkward here. And if it has to go back to g8, also very awkward. So basically, this whole game, I was kind of missing how powerful e5 was, right? And so, takeaway for you e4 players, if you have the option to kick that knight and it doesn't have a good place to go to, that might be what you need to be paying attention to. Okay? All right, let me see. Let's go for the next game. All right, we got e4 again. Let's try e4 again. I mean, we got white again. Let's try e4. I can't even talk. I can't even talk. Let's play bishop c4 again. We'll see what we can do this game. See if we see the same move or not. Really, there's two main moves, knight f6 and knight c6. Oh, bishop e7. Okay. Well, that's a weird one. I'm going to just play knight f3 and just turn it into some normal. So this is like an Italian game where black has played bishop e7, which let's just castle. We won't overthink this one. Bishop e7 is not a bad move. It's a good move. It stops knight g5 ideas. It gets you ready to castle. There's not really anything wrong with bishop e7. Okay, so d6. So very passive setup here from black. I'm leaning towards striking with d4. I think that's, when the king is castled, opening up the center is usually a good thing, especially when your opponent's king is not castled. So, and as a matter of principle, I think d4 makes a lot of sense. Okay, they do develop their knight. So I'm thinking of a couple things, like just kind of going through what might happen in my mind if I take, if I push, if I defend with the rook, if I defend with the knight, you know, things like that. I think I like rook e1. That's usually where you want your rook to be, so let's just do it. Okay. I might push. Yes, the knight can probably just go back to b8 and reroute. But we do get a lot of space. I don't know, though. That might actually not be so bad for black. Because as soon as we push, we can't really do anything in the center. They can reroute their knight probably to c5 or b6. They have a very clear plan. Move the knight, play f5, undermine our pawn structure. And what is my plan? I mean, expand on the queen side, but that's going to take forever. So maybe I don't like that. Maybe I don't. I don't usually play h3, but it's so obvious that the last developing piece that they need is bishop going to g4 that think I am going to play it. So you have to be careful because you do create potential weaknesses. But in this particular game, it's just such an obvious square for the bishop to go to because you can't go here because you get forked. I felt like it was worth stopping it. Okay. I'm going to play a3 just so that I can keep my bishop on this diagonal if it gets attacked by the knight, which I think is very likely. And also, I think I might play b4 and just fee and kettle the bishop here. Just trying to look for some sort of a setup that I'm comfortable with, and I think that's what I'm going to go with. So let's go b4, put the bishop here. Let's keep an eye on this, because now if they take, there is a rook lined up and a knight. So we probably want to defend that, or maybe we trade. And actually, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trade, because when they recapture, let's just say with the pawn, there's no longer going to be pressure here. Now, if they take with the knight, that's a different story. But I think I'll just trade. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so there's no more pressure on this pawn. Do we want to trade queens or not? I don't think I do. I want to keep the queens on the board. I'm going to play queen to e2. There's not a particular reason why. I don't think there's anything wrong with trading queens. But as the stronger player, I feel like having queens is just generally going to be a good thing, right? If I'm playing against a GM who's really good at tactics and stuff, maybe I trade queens and go for an endgame and hope that I can hold on at an endgame or something, right? So you want to think about those things when you're making those decisions. Like who's most likely going to be better at the end of the game, me or my opponent? Who's most likely going to be better using their queen, me or my opponent? And I'm thinking in this position, maybe I am. Now, I don't really know anything about my opponent, so that could be a totally wrong assumption. Maybe my opponent is terrible at endgames, but really good at studying tactics, and maybe leaving the queens on the board is a mistake, right? But I'm just telling you like what my thought process was and why I'm deciding to leave it on. I do like how this bishop can be on b2 and just eye this pawn here. Of course, black can really do the same thing if they want. But yeah, I want to get that bishop there. I'm not sure where this knight's going to go, because if I go to c3, I think black's just going to play c6. Yeah, there you go. So the knight doesn't really have a future there. So probably d2, maybe over to f3. But I think let's go ahead and start with this guy. They definitely want him there, and I'm still debating, like maybe the knight could go... Well, if I went to c3 to d1 to e3, I think a better route would be to go d2, f1, e3. Because here I block my bishop, and then I have to go to d1, take away a square from the rook, whereas knight here to here is just tucked away nicely, and then I can come out to wherever I want. So I think that's the better path than this way. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go knight to d2. And you always want to keep, mental note of like, where are the only open files on the board? It's obviously the D file. So rooks should probably be wanting to go there. So let's just kind of plan ahead for that. Yeah, B6. So they're going to try to do something like this, which just makes sense. We can attack the pawn. But it's pretty easy for black to deal with. Knight to D7, right? And I don't really have a clear follow-up. Then my knight's just kind of sitting there. If I go knight F1, E3, F5, that looks pretty good. Because if black has to play G6, they've created some weaknesses. Now they do have the bishop in position. So yeah, it's a tough decision. I'm going to go ahead and play rook to D1. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play this move anyway. We already talked about the open file. So I'm just waiting to see what they do, and then I'll decide if I want to go forward with the attack here, or if I want to go for this E3, F5 plan instead. Yeah, I think I want to do this instead. It's just such an easy threat for them to deal with. I just don't... And then my knight doesn't have a lot of options from there. I like F1 because I can go to E3, I can go to G3. I can just leave it there for now. It defends my king nicely. All right, so they are trying to open up their rook, which I don't think I want to allow, which means pushing on B5 might make sense, or maybe even playing C3. Because if they take, this is very well defended. The rook's not going to have much to do there. Problem with C3, obviously, is that it blocks the bishop. But I don't know if that's a huge deal. I mean, this is not something I'm going to be taking at the moment anyway. Yeah, sometimes in situations like this, you just have to make a decision. If I sit here and spend another minute or two thinking, that's not a good use of my time, right? You want to ask yourself, especially as you get to the second half of your time, you want to ask yourself the question, is this the best moment in the game to use my time, or do I think there's probably going to be a more critical moment in the future? I absolutely think there's going to be a more critical moment. This is just a random attack on the pawn, but it's very easy to overthink these situations, and then you just run out of time later when you have a very clear, okay, I go here, he goes, all right, a very clear path to calculate if you just had some time left, right? So yeah, just things to think about. Okay, he's trying to open me up. I don't think I want to allow this. Well, maybe I could actually use it to attack the queen. No, I think I'm gonna push here. This bishop, I don't want to let this bishop into the game. So right now the bishop's pretty bad. And I think I want to keep that the way that it is. Okay. I said knight e3, but then I'm losing this pawn. So I think what I'll do instead is knight g3. Defending the pawn, still have the threat of knight f5. Now he can stop that with g6. But even if my knight has to sit there for a little while, it's doing an important job. I do have f3, which is not terrible, actually. Maybe that was a better move. I don't know. I'm starting to think I might want to go for a triple battery on the D file here. Yeah. Rook D3, Rook D1, maybe Queen D2. Even sometimes you can go like double rooks, put the queen behind. Really opens up some tactical opportunities. Black is kind of thinking along the same lines. Now, yeah, I do think I want to deal with this. I don't want to have to worry about this. So I'm going to go ahead and play F3. Yes, we create these dark square weaknesses, but notice I'm paying special attention to the fact that his bishop is trapped. His bishop can't take advantage of those right now. I do have my dark square bishop, which I could use to help if I need to. And this is a very annoying problem. I want to free up my knight and my queen. So I think the benefits outweigh the risks, okay? So now I can start thinking about knight f5. And the thing about f5 is it's a landing point to jump to e3 to d5. Okay, and this is a nice square. Why? Because the pawns have been pushed past it. Okay, and this is a hole. So if I land a knight there, takes, I'd have to take back with a pawn. But if I can somehow set that up to where I could take back with a piece and have a piece just sitting in that square, that would be great. So I'm definitely going to be eyeing that idea. Plays h5. That's a, I mean, I guess you can go there, but it doesn't really bother me too much because I was going to move this knight anyway. So let me just go ahead and move it to f5. We've pretty much caught up on time, which is great. g6, I'm going back to e3 here, like I said. Okay, let's go back. Don't need to overthink that one. And so far, I think Black's playing a pretty nice game. I don't think they're really giving me many targets. I don't think they're really doing anything wrong. Yeah, they're attacking here. Maybe they want to trade that. I'd be okay if they trade that. I would be okay if they trade that. Yeah, what to do? I mean, there's bishop c1 if I want to maybe do something there. Could also keep the knight alive. Yeah, let's try bishop c1. I'm not actually sure. I don't want to spend all my time. Like I said, I don't think Black's really done anything wrong, so I haven't seen too many opportunities to take advantage of anything just yet. I suspect those will come towards the end. Looks like we might end up with some sort of a time scramble in this game. So I definitely want to keep that in the back of my mind and try to stay at least even on time. I don't like the rook just sitting there, so I think I'm going to play knight c2 to get rid of it. Because I don't want to allow Black to double up. Let's make sure it works tactically. This is defended. This is defended. This is defended. We should be able to play knight c2. Actually, on knight c2, if he takes here, I think I could just take the rook. Yeah, I could just take the rook right away. Okay, so he takes back that way. Let's see. We could sack an exchange. No, that seems too risky. Let's just take this, and we might have to take this guy as well. And I'm going to try to move a little faster. I think now is a great moment in the game to play quickly and try to gain a time advantage. And the reason I'm choosing now is because our position's pretty solid. There's not a ton that we have to think about. So I think I can, if I make a conscious decision to like, hey, just play fast, I think I can probably do that. And so as he's getting below 2 minutes, that's going to be a great time to do that. If we can get him below a minute, that's when, you know, the blunders start to happen. And if we still have, like, let's just say two minutes on the clock, that'd be a great way to finish off the game. Rook d8, we probably have to fight for the file. We can't let him just get it. So let's go rook d1. That's a easy decision. And of course, I don't want to take now because then he gets the file, right? But he doesn't want to take me because I get the file. So this is probably just going to sit here for the time being. And one thing that you can do, here's a little pro tip. You can play rook d3, put your queen behind, and force Black to make a decision. Because then you're going to be just threatening to take their rook. Okay? So the knight's coming in, which is a little bit annoying. But looks like we're able to force the... Okay, so we have the file. That's good. All right, here's that trick again. I know my queen is going to be safe for at least 3 moves. Okay? So this is very valuable. If you learn nothing else from this video, if you remember this trick, it'll have been worth it. All right? 1, 2, 3. You can see it just takes 3 moves. All right. Queen might be coming over to checkmate me. Let's put my knight in position to defend. I mean, it's already defended, but I might want to use my queen, right? So I'm getting ready to plan for this. Also, it's going to be a pin. So this is exactly what I was talking about. This is the moment in the game where I definitely am glad I have some extra time. We could sack, check, but no, he could play queen e7. So we don't want to sack. We could block off the queen. But then he has this annoying move. We lose our, yeah. We have to get away from the check. So I think king h1 is probably the move. Still, it's kind of dangerous, though. Still kind of dangerous. Yeah, let's go king h1. I have to get away from this threat, right? Because I want to move my knight, but then he, bam, hits me with a check and takes my queen, okay? So, wait, what? Is that actually, oh, wow. That is a great tactic. Maybe, oh, no, it's not. It's almost a great tactic. Wow. I didn't see that at all. It doesn't work because we can go on the offensive, okay? But that was a very sneaky move. Doesn't work, though. Look at this one. See the pin? Now we get to come in. Now, the game's not over yet. If he goes here, it's checkmate, but he's going to go to the corner. The game is not over. I don't think the game is over, unless I'm missing a checkmate. He's got to play king h8. Otherwise, checkmate. He missed this move, and he's panicking, I guess. I guess we go check. I don't know why our opponent's not moving. But I guess we go check. King moves, then we take this with a check. The reason it's tricky is because there's all kinds of perpetual checks here, potentially. I don't know why they didn't finish the game. That's very strange. But that's going to be an interesting endgame to take a look at. Our opponent did have a nice tactic there. It just turned out to be a bad one. But you could see the graph there. I mean, they were hanging with us for pretty much all game until the very end there. So let's take a look at that ending. Okay. So we get the trade, we fight for the file. This is generally a good idea. When you have two pawns like this, you can stop them with one pawn. Because remember, if I ever try to push, there's always going to be en passant, right? There's always going to be en passant. And so you blockade two with one pawn, and you give yourself this nice hole that you can use for your queen or your knight or whatever. So that was a good move. I tried to force the issue here, which I did. The knight jumps in. I'm defending. Queen's coming over. I'm defending. That's a blunder because of the move queen d7. Look at this. It's a fork. And if you try to get fancy, I can just play king f1. Ah, okay, because this is a checkmate threat. Yeah, this is a big deal. This is a big deal right here. This is checkmate. So that was a huge threat. And I missed that one. So queen d7, very nice move. What I played was not ideal. It almost looked like a fancy tactic, but really black needed to play bishop c8, bringing in the bishop. And then I might have been in trouble. It was going to be hard to defend this, I think, if black played bishop c8 and threatened to sack here. I think I was probably going to play knight g4. What would have happened on knight g4 if he just traded? I don't know which way I was going to take. Let's say this way. Yeah, this would have been very interesting. This would have been super interesting. I don't know what's going on in this position. Maybe I would have won on time or something, but yeah, nice tactic by our opponent, kind of. Okay, because what they're thinking is the king can't take because the queen. So if the knight takes, they win a queen. And if the queen takes, they just recapture and they win a pawn. They just forgot that at the end of everything, there's this move. And there is a checkmate here. Okay, what's a checkmate? Queen f6. Followed by queen takes f7. You can't go there because of mate, so you have to come up. Queen f8. If you go, let's just say to h7, then the bishop comes in, then the queen, then the queen. Yeah, this would have been hard to see. Maybe I would have found it. I don't know. Queen g4 checkmate. Wow. Good game by our opponent. They put up a nice fight, definitely, and to get past 18, 1900, you pretty much have to be able to play an entire game without making any mistakes, right? And that's hard to do, right? Like at the end here, even this, they thought they were playing a nice move and it actually turned out to be a mistake because of the follow-up. That's what you have to be able to see to get past this on the next level. You have to consistently be able to kind of see this stuff. So it's not easy, but that's what it takes. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, learned something, and I'll see you next time. As always, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.